All right. Well, welcome everyone. We have had such a great series of digital doc webinars this year. This will be one of our last for the year. Of course, the year is coming to a close as well. I'm excited to be presenting today. My name is Dr. Joe Glowiak. I'm a functional medicine provider here at Align Modern Health, and I work out of the Lincoln Square office in Chicago, as well as the Elmhurst office in Illinois here too. We're going to have a time today for a question and answer segment at the end of the presentation. If you come up with questions while I'm talking, feel free to go ahead and type those into the Q&A as we go, and just know that we're going to hold those to the end, and we'll still try to address all the questions we can with the time that we have today. At Align Modern Health, it's a privilege to work in an integrated clinic with other professionals. I have chiropractors that are teammates. I have teammates that are acupuncturists. We have massage therapy. We offer physical therapy. And I do the functional medicine part. A little bit about me. I was trained as a chiropractor at National University of Health Sciences here in Illinois. And then afterwards, I earned a master's in science at University of Western States from Portland, Oregon. Some of my favorite things to work on are hormonal issues, weight management, digestive conditions, all of the above. Everybody comes for a different reason, it seems. But one of the main things to know about functional medicine is that whatever your problems are, we try to find the connections. We try to find the root cause of the condition, and we treat the whole person. And I think that that's one of the things that differentiates us a little bit. To find the root cause, a lot of times we'll use various forms of testing, including blood work, sometimes stool testing, sometimes saliva or urine testing to investigate neurotransmitters or hormones. And so we have a lot of great ways to figure out what's going on. And when we treat people, we try to use the conservative things first when we think that's appropriate. How do we look at the immune system, though, in functional medicine? Well, some of the basic ways would be through our blood work, and we could do a complete blood count. And in the complete blood count, we see whether or not the white blood cells are elevated and which types of white blood cells may be elevated or may be decreased. And that can tell us a variety of things. It might tell us that there's a bacteria or a virus or maybe some allergies or a parasite sometimes. We also look at these antibodies that we have. We call them immunoglobulins. It's kind of a sciencey term, but those are the antibodies. And there's various categories of antibodies: IgG, IgM, IgA. IgG antibodies will tell us whether we've had a condition already, such as IgG antibodies against COVID. It might tell you that you've had COVID already, or IgM antibodies against strep. Maybe there's a lot of strep infections going around, and when you have a brand new strep infection, then those IgM antibodies will elevate in the blood. IgA antibodies are the ones that are released on our mucosa. So those are the ones that we'll find living in the gut. They could be found in a stool test, but there are some that are secreted in our blood as well. And sometimes those might have something to do with food sensitivities or other types of infections that infect those surfaces. Complement testing is more of an innate immune response. And so it's a little less specific, but it would tell us about other immune imbalances, sometimes autoimmunity. And then the titer that we talk about with an antibody is really just the amount of that antibody. So when we talk about immune function, some of the basic foundations of our health are really important, such as sleep, managing your stress, getting the right amount of exercise, not too much, not too little. Hygiene as well is important, and eating well. And that's where we're going to probably focus a little bit more today. These are some of the key nutrients that I think are most important for the immune system that we can get from various foods. And we have a selection of pictures here of some of the foods that these are found in. Vitamin C, we've all heard about. Vitamin E is also an antioxidant similar to vitamin C, but vitamin C is more water soluble, whereas vitamin E is more fat soluble. Beta carotene is water soluble. It's found in carrots, of course, and other vegetables, but it is a precursor for vitamin A in the body. And vitamin A in that form is a fat soluble nutrient. So that's an important distinction that we'll talk about in one of the next slides coming up. And selenium and zinc are both minerals, but they're both cofactors for enzymes that are really important for the immune response. And so we'll go into those things too. But these minerals are found in all of our awesome foods too. A little bit more about vitamin C. Well, we all know we could find it in citrus fruits. I'm going to talk a little bit about supplementation as well. Typically, it has been said that a supplement of vitamin C isn't quite as good as getting it from food. And that is because a lot of people consider the bioflavonoids in the fruits, in the orange, it's usually in the pulp of the orange, the white part, that contributes to a lot of the positive benefits of vitamin C. Because vitamin C, as an antioxidant, works together with those bioflavonoids to scavenge our free radicals. And so you might want to know what scavenging a free radical really means. Well, when we're sick, our immune system is going to produce a lot of harmful chemicals called free radicals in order to try to get rid of the pathogens. And it's really important for that immune response to have antioxidants that could stop that destructive process when it comes to our own tissues. Otherwise, we take on a lot of collateral damage in that process. And so the immune system can be a lot more organized when it has all the things that it needs to stop some of that damage from occurring when and where it's appropriate. So an orange can really give you a little bit better quality of vitamin C, but you only get 70 milligrams from a medium orange. And you could see that there's other foods like the raw red pepper that might contribute more, which is kind of surprising. A couple of my other favorite foods that are really high in vitamin C would be Brussels sprouts. And people don't usually think about Brussels sprouts as having vitamin C, but a cup of Brussels sprouts has about 96 milligrams of vitamin C. And I really like this Indian fruit called amla. It's the Indian gooseberry. And you could even buy a supplement of this fruit, but a half cup of amla berries is about 300 milligrams of vitamin C. And in India, they make a jelly-like substance or a spread, if you will, called chavan prash, which has about the same amount in a spoonful. And so you would add a spoonful of that to milk traditionally in India. Vitamin E is also very important. It actually works with vitamin C. These are going to help take some of the damage from the vitamin C and continue to absorb those free radicals. Vitamin E is not just one vitamin. There's actually a myriad of tocopherols and tocotrienols that are distinct from one another. And they use some of the Greek alphabet to discern it. So it could be alpha or beta or gamma or delta tocopherol. One thing to know about supplementation is that the DL-alpha tocopherol is a synthetic form of vitamin E, and it's not the preferred way of taking it. Usually you want to get a blend of these mixed ones in there. But with our food, we could get, with just a half cup of almonds or sunflower seeds, we could get the daily need for vitamin D in just one of those servings. Beta carotene as well is really important. It does contribute to vitamin A. and it will get converted into either retinol or retinoic acid. Those are the two main forms of vitamin A. In terms of supplements, you could supplement with beta carotene or other carotenoids, or you could also supplement with retinol or retinoic acid. But the fat-soluble forms, the retinol and the retinoic acid, could be dangerous if you take too much of it. And so we usually don't use that as much unless there's a serious infection going on. And when we do, we only give high doses of vitamin A for a couple of days at the very most. In terms of food, you could see that a sweet potato has even more beta carotene than raw carrots. And so you can't let, the names of these things or some of our, common knowledge cloud the actual choices that you make to try to get some of these nutrients, because it is kind of surprising that you get more from a sweet potato. Selenium is also a very important nutrient for the immune system. It is a cofactor, meaning it's going to activate enzymes that help to produce something called glutathione peroxidase, which is the enzyme that makes glutathione. And so that's why selenium helps the immune system the most. It also is important for enzymes that help your thyroid out, and having healthy thyroid function is also important for the immune system. But glutathione is one of those new buzzwords that you might have heard of if you have been listening to other podcasts or webinars about functional medicine. We might talk about glutathione a lot. It is one of the most ubiquitous, one of the most helpful proteins that we generate that has an antioxidant activity in the body. So whereas oranges make vitamin C to protect themselves from oxidative stress, human bodies make glutathione. And so this is one of the most important ingredients in making it. Brazil nuts have a really high amount of selenium in it, and sardines are also pretty good. It's said that if you eat 3 or 4 Brazil nuts per day, that will boost your levels of selenium pretty well to an optimal level. And I've seen it because I do measure selenium levels in a lot of my patients' blood work. Zinc as well is important. Now, zinc can be found in meat, but if you're more plant-based in your approach to eating, beans and pumpkin seeds are also good sources. We've all probably heard of Zicam, which you can buy over the counter, and that's a very small amount of zinc, but it does help topically in the throat and in the nasopharynx and things like that. When I give people zinc, I usually give a higher dose than what Zicam can provide. So usually, though, we need to see what your levels of zinc are in the blood first. But zinc is also important for the immune response because it helps to allow the white blood cells to weaponize. And so even if your white blood cells are in high enough numbers, without the zinc, they're not able to effect their destruction on the pathogens. And so that's why zinc is important for the immune response. It's also good for hormones, male and female hormones, as well as thyroid hormone too. So we've chosen a few superfoods to talk about today as well. The one on the left is turmeric, and then we have some dried tart cherries. We also have walnuts here and garlic, and I guess this is pomegranate, as well as green leafy vegetables such as kale. So we're going to go through each of those. Turmeric has anti-inflammatory effects. I think most of us have used it for that if we have. And one good pro tip to know is that turmeric can come in various different forms. So if you just take turmeric off the spice shelf and use powdered turmeric to season your food, it's going to have most of its effects inside the GI tract. And that's not a bad thing, but it is a little limited for what some people are trying to accomplish with turmeric. So other companies supplement companies have tried to formulate turmeric in ways that can help it be better absorbed. And what they noticed was that some cultures use turmeric in sauces like curry or along with coconut milk. And those sauces usually contain some kind of fat content. And so what they decided to do was add phospholipids to the turmeric in some of the supplements that they make to make it more fat soluble. And that allows it to cross the membranes of your cells, since the membrane of your cell is fat-based. So I like to use that form. We call that the phytosome form of turmeric. But then there's also a water dispersible form. And right now there's just one of those, and it's a trademarked under the name Theracurmin. And that water dispersible form of turmeric is said to have better access to getting inside the blood-brain barrier. And so it can be helpful for inflammatory conditions in the brain as well. So it can help to reduce inflammation, but it also enhances the antibody response. And so it is appropriate for when you're sick as well. And that's why I love turmeric. Dried tart cherries are also considered a superfood. They have a lot of vitamin C, as you can imagine, and they have polyphenols, which are other antioxidants, free radical scavenging compounds that it makes. One of the other reasons why I picked tart cherries for this one is because it does increase melatonin. And so if you consume some tart cherries, a serving of tart cherries at nighttime, or if you take a little tart cherry juice at night, that can help you to rest better. And of course, rest is one of the best things for when you're sick. Another thing to note might be that the cherry tree bark has some good properties as well in suppressing a cough. So sometimes you'll find cherry tree bark extract in some of the cough remedies on the natural shelves too. And walnuts are also one of the top anti-inflammatories. One of the big reasons is that it contains a lot of omega-3 fatty acids, which go into the membranes of our cells and help to quench the free radicals in those membranes. And omega-3 fatty acids are also known to help reduce anxiety and stress. And so it helps to trigger some of our natural cannabinoids that our body makes on its own. So walnuts have multiple different effects. They also have other nutrients like vitamin E, B6, copper, and folate. And we'll talk about folate a little bit more as well. Folate's really important for barrier function in the body. Garlic is such a great food to use while you're sick. In fact, I was given the recommendation to use garlic when I was in chiropractic school in my younger years. And a colleague of mine was saying, hey, why don't you use garlic to try to get over that cold faster? So I did. I took a clove of garlic and I cut it into some slices and I chewed it up. And before long, I was feeling this horrible burning feeling in my stomach. And so I feel like that was not the right approach. These days, if I recommend garlic to somebody, I'll ask them to crush it first using a garlic press and add it to some warm water. So a nice warm mug of water, you add the garlic to it, you stir it up, maybe you even add some salt. It makes a wonderful gargle. Or you could drink the garlic water. I probably wouldn't drink the salt in it, but you could drink the garlic water, and that's another way to take it. Pomegranate juice is also, pomegranate is touted as a superfood. It has multiple different effects, but one of the best studies is that it was able to decrease the length of the common cold by as much as 40%. And so it has a great response for viruses, but we know also that pomegranate is chock full of polyphenols, and polyphenols are sometimes the favorite food of our good bacteria. And the good bacteria in our body definitely need those polyphenols and fiber and things like that in order to be strong. and they have a very helpful effect in upregulating our immune response. And in terms of helping the good bacteria, nothing could be better than green leafy vegetables like kale. So the fiber that's in kale is really beneficial to those flora, and we want to cultivate the right kind of flora to boost our immune system by consuming these. But also, we love green vegetables because they have vitamin A, vitamin C, and folate. And I mentioned that folate helps the barrier function. The barrier function in the gut is really important because you could get very inflamed if you don't have good integrity. If you have poor integrity of the barrier in your gut, then you might have extra inflammation, you might develop more food sensitivities, your immune system can become very compromised. And folate is coming from foliage, that's where the word folate comes from, is going to help make those cells more numerous. It's going to help cell division in the gut. And here's some bad news, unfortunately. I want to share a few foods that might decrease your immune function. So we all know that alcohol isn't good for us, but it actually inhibits the pro-inflammatory cytokine signaling. And so it can help, so it could hurt your body's immune response. It also impairs wound healing and makes your barrier function worse. It can thin the GI lining a little bit. Consuming too much salt. Now, this is not to demonize salt, but consuming too much salt, if you take in more than 2,300 milligrams per day on a regular basis, that would impair your macrophage and lymphocyte function and also alter the gut microbiome in a negative way. So that could be another problem if you're consuming too much on a regular basis. Excess sugars, we all are trying to stave off for sure. But one of the big reasons why excess sugar is bad is because it does cultivate a lot of the negative bacteria that can grow in the gut, or yeast as well. And yeast can be pretty inflammatory too. So we want to make sure that we're not eating too much sugar. Sugar can also upregulate metalloproteinases and cause inflammation in the joints. So a lot of the joint degeneration that people experience is a result of those metalloproteinases being released by the immune system. And so it has a very negative effect. And caffeine as well, another vice that many of us may have. We want to try to consume less than 400 milligrams per day. 24 ounces of regular coffee is about that amount. And caffeine could be very dehydrating to the body. But the other main effect of caffeine is it's going to upregulate your adrenal reactions. And so you might have a stress response that gets amplified when you're under the influence of that caffeine. And that's going to inhibit your ability to sleep well. During the day, though, it's going to have an effect where it can produce more cortisone in your body. And cortisol and cortisone are related. Cortisol is the stress hormone. Cortisone is that anti-inflammatory hormone in your body that dampens and weakens your immune response. So that's an important connection to note as well. And not eating enough fiber, we talked about how fiber from green leafy vegetables is important, but we want to also consume things like root vegetables in our diet, such as beets, such as radishes and turnips and parsnips and things. And so we want to increase that prebiotic fiber because it helps to boost those healthy bacteria. So if you're really tracking your fiber, you want to make sure that you get at least 25 grams a day for women or 38 grams for men. And I know that, the healthiest people out there are consuming much more than that. So sometimes tracking it for a little while can really help to get you on track. And here's just another reminder about the green vegetables. Technically, less than 3 cups per week would be a problem, but I encourage my patients to eat about, 4, or maybe even if they're pushing it, 5 servings of vegetables in a given day. And a serving of vegetables is either 1 cup or 1/2 cup, depending on what kind. Green leafy vegetables should make up probably half. And it's important to eat both cooked and raw green leafy vegetables because the cooked ones will have more of those minerals we're looking for, whereas those raw green leafy vegetables have more like antioxidants and those free radical scavenging compounds we're looking for, but we lose those in the cooking process. Focusing on cruciferous vegetables is a good idea, like arugula, bok choy, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, because they contain sulfur, and sulfur is also one of the components needed to make glutathione, which again is that really good free radical scavenging molecule we make in our own body. And one of the things to note from our conversation today is that a lot of the milligrams that I shared on the preceding slides were approximations, but the food that we eat might vary. So if the food is grown out of season, it may not have as many milligrams as the average, carrot or the average orange. If it's made in an inorganic way, the pesticides that they use are going to prevent some of the mineral accumulation in the fruits and vegetables. So we try to eat organic as much as possible. But when we're not getting enough nutrients from our food, and it's hard to kind of know whether we are or not without testing, but when we're not, we use supplements. And here at Align Modern Health, this is just a few of the things that I like to use. A core multivitamin, which is more than just a multivitamin. We have had this one formulated special to include other special nutrients and things to boost the mitochondrial function, and the mitochondria are a big deal for the immune system. The mitochondria are the little powerhouses in our cells. And so the core multivitamin is going to have a little bit more to boost those functions. B vitamins are really important for the liver, and glutathione is produced in high amounts in the liver. Seasonal support can help to decrease our histamine responses, and certain types of immune overreactions can produce a lot of histamine, causing migraines, causing allergies, nasal allergies, sneezing, things like that, or even rashes in the body. So there's a lot of ways that we might have high histamine show up in our symptoms. Viramax is a specially formulated mixture of both herbs and nutrients that boost the immune response, specifically against viruses. So the herbs that are in Viramax help the immune system lean towards the types of methods to get rid of viruses, which are a special case of pathogen. And vitamin D, we all know that, getting out in the sun is helpful for vitamin D, but when we're so far from the equator, we don't get as much of a good in our skin for making vitamin D as we'd like. And so a lot of times we need to supplement here in the Midwest to bring the levels up to where they belong. But vitamin D is good for helping the gut integrity. So it'll help to reduce the chances of leaky gut. It will also help to modulate the immune response so that you don't have an overreaction to some of the things that you're coming across. And so vitamin D is also one of those important nutrients. And I'm going to go through some of these questions now. We have just a little more time for that. The first question is, for the vitamin C foods, do those need to be raw, like the Brussels sprouts? And that is one idea that you might want to try for, is to try to err on the side of raw for those. Now, we did talk about how cooking the fruits and vegetables could release minerals from them as well. But Brussels sprouts have vitamin C, and cooking the Brussels sprouts would oxidize the vitamin C. Your body will still absorb that vitamin C in the oxidized form, and your body, through different biochemical processes, could regenerate that vitamin C to a reduced form of the vitamin C so that it's able to help you again with that antioxidant function. So that is actually a good one, a good question. what was the Indian berry that was recommended? Oh, it's amla, A-M-L-A. Can you use dried or cooked garlic instead of raw garlic? You can. Now, cooking the garlic, similar to cooking the Brussels sprouts, is going to change the antioxidant capacity of the garlic when you're consuming it. Cooked garlic tastes delicious. You'll still get a lot of the sulfur compounds from dried or cooked garlic. So I don't think that that's a bad option. But raw garlic, when you're sick, might be a better option. And you just want to make sure that you're diluting it so that you're not causing any irritation. The next question is, did you say you can get the benefits of garlic by just gargling with warm garlic water? You can. You can probably get more benefits by swallowing the garlic water. But if you have a sore throat, gargling the garlic water will be just as good. And I like adding salt to the water as well, because salt will create a hypertonic solution and it will make it harder for bacteria or other organisms in your throat to thrive. Is there a way to get around the FODMAP part? Well, that's probably a question that we would want to talk about more in a free consult. We didn't really go into the concept of FODMAPs here, and I don't want to try to confuse anybody with that. So make a free consult with me. We will have that available for free. There's a 15-minute consult you can do, and so that'll be helpful. Retinol on your face. A lot of times you can use vitamin A components on your face, and many youthful serums will have that. It does get absorbed a little bit into the bloodstream, but you're going to want to consume foods high in vitamin A as well, because it's just not quite the same level of absorption. And then controlling the histamine response in your body. Yes, there is a compound called quercetin also in fruits and vegetables, and quercetin can be found in onions and apples, and that is a very antihistamine component to have. That would be the food way of doing it, but I mentioned the seasonal support supplement that we offer, which would also have lots of antihistamine components. And so if you take a look at those ingredients, they're listed on our website. You'll be able to see what some of the other antihistamine supplement might look like. What is a good time to take the vitamins? Well, it depends on what vitamins we're talking about. I think if you have specific questions, again, you'd want to have a free consult with me so we could go over individually what you're thinking about with this question. And then another question is curcumin a good form of turmeric? Well, curcumin is a component in turmeric. So turmeric is the actual plant, and curcumin would be one of the constituents inside of the plant. Curcumin is, one of those compounds that we could extract from the turmeric. So curcumin comes in many forms, but yes, curcumin is a good form of turmeric. It's a more concentrated piece. The next question is, what type of salt should be added to the garlic water? Iodized or kosher or maybe Himalayan? I really don't use iodized salt a lot myself. I try to stick to sea salt. So the one that I use the most is Celtic sea salt. And the reason why I like Celtic sea salt is because it has a lot of other minerals besides just sodium in there. It has a little bit of magnesium, a little bit of calcium, and a lot of the Celtic sea salt is a coarse grain, so it's a little less concentrated than iodized salt. You might have to use just a little more of it, but I think that would probably be the best. The next question is, I've heard vitamin D is synergistic with magnesium, and many people are deficient. So if supplementing with vitamin D, are there other foods good for magnesium? And the answer is yes. Some of the some of the magnesium-rich foods that come to mind for me, my favorite would be chocolate. Chocolate seems to have a lot of magnesium in there. But green leafy vegetables are a great source of magnesium. And so I usually see that when people report that they're eating a lot of green leafy vegetables in their diet, and again, cooking helps to liberate the magnesium from green leafy vegetables, that's a great way for you to absorb it. Well, I think those are all the questions for today. So I'm going to go ahead and draw to a close. I really appreciate everybody attending today. And I will get back to everybody on what other things they've asked about. If you want to share my email, we can do that too. Thanks.